very good morning to you. We are pursuing, as it were, the life of David, and we've reached the point where Absalom, his estranged son, has enticed the people by dealing with their problems at the gate before they get to the king to ask for his judgment on things. Absalom has intervened and has made it out the king is too busy and has dealt with things himself, and he's won over the hearts of the people. And he has gone to Hebron for a feast and taken with him, so the king thinks, all the children, but he hasn't. There's a conspiracy, and Absalom is declared king at Hebron, just as David had been declared king at Hebron for the first 7.5 years of his reign. And the country is divided, pro-David, anti-David. And I really am not quite sure why David left Jerusalem, because Jerusalem had become the capital and was the seat of power. And leaving Jerusalem was like handing it on a plate to Absalom. David did not stand his ground. He did not want to fight Absalom. He did not want to harm Absalom. He did not want civil war. He did not want warfare. I struggle with this, because David had been such a strong man in his younger days, but in this whole situation he was at sea, and he made all the wrong decisions. He decides, before Absalom comes anywhere near Jerusalem, he decides to take everyone who wants to go with him and leave, so that none of them are harmed. And he leaves the city. That's in 2 Samuel 15. And he sees them all go out of the city, and he's the last one out to make sure everyone leaves safely. And he leaves in charge of the household 10 of his concubines. And there's a little episode with Ittai, the Gittite, who goes with the king, who is loyal to the king. These next few passages are about those who are loyal to the king and those who are not. In situations when unrest comes and difficulty over who is king and who is not king, people take sides. People side with the one they think is going to be triumphant for their own good. They look after their own good. And if you look back at the history of the English Civil War, there were people who swapped sides their whole life. They even swapped religions, some of them, in order to stay in favour with the person who was in power. And this is what happened with David. It's interesting that the Levites and the priests, Zadok and Abiathar, brought the covenant along to take the covenant, the Ark of the Covenant, with David, to go with David and leave Jerusalem, and David wouldn't do it. And he says in verse 27, go back to the city in peace. He says, if God has pleasure in me, I will return, but we will not take the Ark of the Covenant with us. So they go back to Jerusalem and stay there. And there is great sadness in David. He fled a king before, and now he flees his own son. And Ahithophel, one of David's men and counselors, chooses Absalom, and David is very sad. He gets to the top of the Mount of Olives, weeping as he went, barefoot with his head covered, and all the people who were with him were weeping as they went. It was a terrible day, when it seemed like everything was lost. And my thought for the day really is that it was David's own actions, a series of actions that led him to this situation. It's interesting that he asks his men for advice about what he should do, but he doesn't ask God. He doesn't say to the Lord like he did back at Ziklag. You remember we were looking at Ziklag at the end of 1 Samuel. Should I pursue them, or will I be able to retrieve everything? He goes to God with the question, but he doesn't. He doesn't go to God with the question, should I leave Jerusalem? Should I fight Absalom? Should I take up arms against my son? He didn't want to do it. He was ruled, I believe, by his heart and not by by wisdom from God. But anyway, he flees and he prays. He hears that Ahithophel has sided with Absalom, and he does ask the Lord to turn that counsel into foolishness to bring Absalom down. And he sends back Hushai into the city, and he says to him, act like you're serving Absalom and keep me informed of what's going on in Jerusalem. So David leaves Jerusalem, and he's on the run again. He's with a huge number of people going with him, and it breaks my heart to read this chapter, to see what is happening in David's life, and to see how it doesn't matter how wise you are, how strong you are, how powerful, how settled you are. Unexpected events can happen, and it's at those times that we draw on our knowledge of God and our knowledge of his ways and our knowledge of his word, and we ask him, we pray that peace of God rule in our hearts and direct us the right way we should go. We need to lean on God heavily when things are difficult. So that's my thought for the day, and I hope you have a great day. I'll see you again tomorrow. God bless you. Bye-bye.